Today on Her Faith at Work, we are talking all things marketing calendar, not the color-coded spreadsheet that makes you want to cry. Well, at least it makes me want to cry. Not the guilt trip checklist of all the things that you think, in quotes, you should be doing. I'm going to talk to you about a plan that reflects not only your message and your mission, but it reflects your actual life, like real life, like life during the holidays because I know that you are not here to post just to post, right? So today, I'm going to walk you through how to map out your visibility and your marketing calendar for the rest of this year, and then how to take that same approach into 2026. It's going to be super practical. I think it's going to be pretty great. So let's go. Truth time. When's the last time you raised your hands for a swift kick in the pants? Well, I'm the no-nonsense type friend who's going to tell you when you have food in your teeth. So let's get right to it. This is your infusion of sacred and secular, calling you higher into who God created you to be, exploring how intimately faith applies to every part of your life, and how you can live that faith every single day in the marketplace. I felt the tension of separation of church and state. I've been one of the few women at a table of men for decades, and I've stood my ground. Are you ready to do the same? These tools, resources, and interviews are meant to do just that. I'm Jan Touchberry, and it's time to share her faith at work. Hey friend, welcome back to the podcast. So excited that you are here today. First of all, can you believe that it's December? Holy cow. I feel like the year went by super fast. I know that a lot of times we say that, but I just feel like I blinked and it's almost 2026. I don't know how we got here. Anyway, if you happen to be listening to this and it's not December, we're going to talk about planning for the end of the year, but the concepts that we're going to discuss today can be really used any time of the year. So stick with me. You don't have to turn off, right? So this is going to be practical and things that you can use anytime. All right. So if you haven't listened to episode 93 yet, we are talking about your visibility blueprint in that episode. Please go back and listen. You don't have to do it right now, obviously, because it's not like attached to this directly, but a visibility blueprint is kind of the foundation for everything that we're going to talk about today. So I do want you to go back and listen episode 93 when you're done here. And also it comes with a free checklist that you're going to want. So go back, listen to episode 93. But for now, we're going to get into everything marketing calendar. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to get honest about your capacity. All right. Before we talk about planning or platforms or batching content, I want you to get super honest about where you're at right now. I mean, like really, really honest, not where you wish you were or what you think a business owner should be doing right now, just where you are in your life, in your business. What do you have to give? Especially as we enter this time of the year, right? So this is the time that this is actually coming out into the airwaves. It's the very first week in December. So we're getting ready to enter cray cray time. I don't know about you, my life is cray cray during December. And so I want you to be super realistic about what your life looks like right now during this time of the year, especially knowing that you want to plan so that you have time to enjoy the holidays, with your friends and your family. So you're going to ask yourself, how many hours a week do I actually have to devote to showing up? Okay. We're going to break that up by weeks, since some weeks you're going to have more time than others, right? So this week you may have 2 hours. Another week, you may have 0 hours, and that is totally okay. But you have to know that now so you don't get stuck in a week that really you have 0 hours, but you need to, right? So we're going to break it up into how many hours you have per week for the rest of the year. All right. You're going to look at what's going on in your life and your family right now. What obligations and things do you need to honor? All right. Make a list. And then what kind of energy do you have for content creation and visibility? There are going to be some weeks that you're going to feel really great, and there are other weeks that you're going to feel exhausted. Be honest about that. Plan ahead, right? Here's the big one. You need to ask yourself, what is your capacity for long-term consistency? Not just the creativity that goes into it, but everything that goes into being consistent over weeks long term. All right. Sometimes we get inspired and we just want to launch the podcast or start a weekly email or post every day. But in 2 weeks, it's just not sustainable. So we're going to give ourselves permission to choose sustainable over impressive. Okay. That is the kind of consistency that's going to compound over time. And that's what's going to build trust with your audience and, quite honestly, with yourself. And please, this should go without saying, although somebody's probably going to feel pressure, and that's why I'm going to say this anyway. Please don't try to launch anything new this month. For Pete's sake, do not try to launch anything new or revive anything that's been dead this month. Don't do it. If you're listening in December, okay? If this is past December, revive away, launch away. But don't launch anything new or try to revive things that are dead in December, okay? Be consistent with what you're already doing, what's already working, and make plans to do any expansion that you want to do in the new year, all right? Step number 2, you've got to know what you're leading people toward. So once you know your capacity, the next question is, where are you taking people? You're not just creating content to check some box, right? At least I hope you're not, because that is a waste of time and it's not really good business strategy. You are needing to lead people somewhere toward transformation, toward an offer, toward connection. Okay. So you're going to ask yourself these questions. What am I inviting people into this month? What am I inviting people into over the next couple of months? Do I have an offer that I need to fill? Is there a free resource that I want more people to see? Am I preparing for a launch in Q1 of 2026? And or is it just simply that you want to build momentum, which is totally fine. But don't just post to post, all right? You have to know what the purpose is and where you're leading people. You're going to pick one clear goal. And that is going to become your anchor, all right? Every piece of content, whether it's a story, a post, a podcast, an email, should point back to that invitation, to that anchor point. Even if your goal is just consistency, that's valid. Then your invitation is come along the journey as I show up faithfully again, right? And if you don't know what your next offer is yet, that's totally okay. You're going to use this time to reintroduce yourself, deepen the connection, build trust. That alone is going to serve your future launch more than you know. Okay? Next, you're going to want to define your visibility rhythm. Okay? So we're going to build your rhythm. Remember, this is not about being everywhere. It's about being consistent somewhere. So you're going to start with these questions. Number 1, what is your core platform? What does that mean? Good question. Where you share your longer form content, okay? Everybody needs a long form content, whether that's a podcast, a blog, a newsletter, YouTube videos, not shorts, but actual long form videos, okay? You've got to have a core platform. You don't have to have multiples of them, but you do need to have one. And then you ask, what's your support platform? A lot of times it's social media, where you echo or amplify whatever the core content is. So if you have a podcast, how are you going to take that and break it down and put it out on your supplemental or support platform like social media or an email to echo or amplify your core content? All right. Does that make sense? And then you're going to have to ask yourself, what are your rhythms for each one of those, right? So what's your rhythm for your core platform? What's your rhythm for your support platform? So here's an example of something that I feel like is a fairly sustainable rhythm. So like every week, you're going to email on Thursdays. You send out an email to your list. That is considered long form content. And then 2 times a week, you're going to post on Instagram. Once a month, you're going to do an Instagram live. And then your goal is to do a podcast guest spot or collaboration with someone in the month of December. So once a month. Okay. That seems fairly sustainable. It's not overly ambitious. It's not going to make you have heart palpitations when you look at all the things that you have to do, right? It's just bite size. It's enough. You do not have to be everywhere every day. You just need to be present where you've committed to be present in the time frame that you've committed to be present to it. All right. So here's an example of my rhythm for this month, specifically the month of December. Okay. It ramps up other months, but again, it depends on your rhythm. So for me in December, I do weekly podcast drops on Wednesday. I do a weekly email, and the day can vary, and I've made peace with that. And then I plan on doing one blog this month in December, and I'm going to do one podcast guest recording in December. So I'm going to be a guest on somebody else's podcast, and we're recording in December. That is the goal. That feels doable for me. It doesn't feel like it's going to cause me too much anxiety for this month when everything else is so busy, and it's going to give me time to detach and kind of unplug and rest during the week between Christmas and New Year's. Hallelujah. So, after you've decided what works for you, you're going to plug that rhythm into your calendar. Okay. I personally I bought on Amazon, I'll try to link them in the show notes. There's really cool acrylic calendars, and they come in. Well, I bought three of them so I can plan a quarter at a time. And then I just rotate them, right? So I finish one month and I plug in the next one. And so I'm always looking at a quarter. So I plug all my things into those calendars. And so you're going to write it down, and don't just say weekly email. Okay. So on your calendar, on Thursday, you're going to send an email on, and then you're going to include your topic. Or for like my podcast calendar, right? So I have on Wednesday, December 10th, I'm going to have an episode with organizational coach Tracy Hoth, which, by the way, I am next week. So you should listen. It's a great episode. So you get really specific. Okay. Visibility is not a mystery. It's a muscle. It's a muscle, and muscles take consistent working out to build. All right. It grows when you make a plan and you show up for it. Now, we want to talk about, for step 4, building out the rest of your year plan. I want to get super practical. As of the day that this podcast drops on December 3rd, you've got about 5-ish weeks left in the year, give or take, depending on holidays, if you want to count those in. I recommend that you're going to break it down by weeks and get everything planned out in one sitting for the rest of the month. Then you can sit down and you can batch your content and get it scheduled so that you can take some time off the last week of the year to just rest and enjoy the holidays. That is my goal. My goal is to have every stinking thing done in my business by mid-December so that everything is just running on automation and I can just unplug. All right. Focus on one simple theme a week. Do not get overly ambitious here. It's not worth it. 1 to 3 pieces of content to match the theme. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. And then we're going to use automation, and it's going to keep you visible and keep the momentum going while you rest. All right. And then step 5, we're going to look into 2026. We're going to look ahead. So you want to zoom out, right? I don't want you to plan every post for next year, but I do want you to start sketching your big picture. Maybe you want to ask yourself, what are your big rocks in 2026? What are the launches that you're planning, the events that you're planning, the personal time that you know that you need to mark off, any travel or vacations or conferences or things that you're going to, right? Mark that off. Big rocks first. Then you can ask yourself, what do you want to be known for next year? What do you want to build toward next year? And then you got to think about it quarterly. Okay. So you take the big picture and then you're going to break it down quarterly. You guys know that I'm a huge proponent of reverse engineering. So then you take your big rocks and you break them down into Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So Q1, what's my main theme, my offer, or my message? Q2, same thing. What's the main thing I got to build? What do I want to build in Q2? Q3, maybe there's some margin or rest here. Build it in. Q4, Always be asking yourself in Q4, even if there's other things that you have going, how can I close the year with intention? Can you imagine planning in January for closing 2026 intentionally and the stress that it would take off of you when you hit Q4? You do not have to stress out about nailing this perfectly, okay? Just start the conversation with the Holy Spirit and let Him lead. Let your calendar reflect alignment, not just random activity. And you guessed it, I have an offer to go with all of this, okay? So we are going to build this together. All of this that we just talked about, we're going to build it together in January during our visibility workshop. It is going to be so great. We're building out your whole visibility blueprint for the year. And obviously, we're not going to be able to plug in everything because we have to be flexible enough to pivot, but we are going to try to create your whole full Q1 calendar. Get clarity on your visibility priorities. Make sure it fits your season that you're in for your life and your business. Make sure it fits your goals and make sure it fits your preferred strategy. And then if there's a pivot that needs to happen in 2026, we can talk about what that looks like and what things you need to have in place in order to switch strategies maybe or add something in, okay? And before I close out this podcast, I just want to give you a gentle reminder. You do not need more hustle in your life. You just have to get honest with yourself, because if we're honest about what matters, if we're honest about what you can really sustain, if you're honest about what God is actually asking you to do and what He's not asking you to do, everything gets so much easier. Your marketing calendar is not a to-do list, friends. It's just a tool, and it works best when it's rooted in peace and not pressure. So take a breath, grab your planner, your calendar, review your rhythm, and I want you to start sketching out the rest of your year in 2025 with some intention. You've got time, you've got a message, and you've got a God who's not in a hurry, but who is calling you forward into a plan and a purpose that He has already set out for you. So, if you haven't already, just a reminder, go back, listen to episode 93, grab the visibility blueprint if you haven't already. It's going to help you lay out the foundation for this. And then hop into that January visibility workshop, okay? So you can find the blueprint, the episode, and the sign up for the workshop all on my website at jantouchberry.com/visibility. It's Jan Touchberry, just like it sounds, TOUCHBERRY.com/visibility. All right? Now remember, I am in your corner, friend. So if you need anything, just holler at me, and I'll see you back here soon. Have a great week. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Faith at Work. If the Lord put someone on your heart that you think needs to hear this message today, will you just smash that share button? And if you haven't already followed the show, I would love for you to do that. Super extra points if you hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps the algorithm pick us up and drop us right in the AirPods of people that need to hear what the Lord is saying to them today. I hope you'll come back for the next episode of Her Faith at Work. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. And if you look down in the show notes, I've even got a couple of free downloads for you that I think you will really enjoy. With that, have a great week. See you next time.